Good evening. Ratings! Reviews! Numbers! We all love giving our favorite pieces of media a numerical value on a scale of 1 to 10. And hey, the guys up top are telling me to check mine. I admit, I can be a bit of a ratings freak. I love knowing what people think about me. And if the guys up top are telling me to, it's probably pretty good. I hope that number's absolute. I think there's a certain kind of nerd that gets off on critic scores, and not necessarily for bad reasons. For one, IGN is sexy as shit. Admit it. We've all thought about it. Aside from any sort of arousal it brings, a critical score can give you an idea of what you're getting into with a game, especially if it's a critic that you know and respect. However, the traditional game critic has sort of faded into the background in the modern day. While gaming publications are still hanging on by a thread in America, they aren't necessarily at the forefront of gaming talk anymore. And when they are, it's hardly for review scores anymore, instead being the one-stop shop to find out how many employees Microsoft decided to lay off this week. Newsflash, it's way too many. There's still some physical published works hanging around, like A Profound Waste of Time, or the Japanese magazines like Famitsu, but these are less about actual scores, and instead getting insight into the industry itself, or hearing the perspective from a creative who's making games currently. In a world where reviews are mostly centered around individual taste, one website manages to hang on by being the easiest to screenshot: Metacritic. If you haven't used this website, then you sure as hell seen someone complain about it. Started in 2001, Metacritic has served as gaming's equivalent to something like Rotten Tomatoes, a service giving you the average of both critic and public scores. I think a resource like this is a good idea. Getting to see what most people are saying can be helpful when you almost accidentally buy Pimp My Ride. My only dream was to enter Pimp City, where bling is king and style is everything! And they ruined my dream?! Going to one specific source implicitly has bias. Every single reviewer has different ideas of what good and bad is, so just getting a quick average to gauge critical approval can be beyond useful. I also like the separation of the critic score from the audience score. Kinda. In the positive, it very much helps get an idea when the critics just don't understand what a game is trying to do. What's not to understand? Bling is king and style is everything! It's good to hear from the people who actually played the game because they were interested and tuned into it, and don't have the same bias that a company sent the game for free or was paid to review the game might. These two little numbers together have provided a lot of clarity, and helped me even inform my own purchases at times. But Metacritic is far from the saint it can be painted as. Although in times like this, it's when I remember the ancient proverb, "Let he who is without sin cast the first 38. While overall a useful resource, Metacritic has become a bit of a thorn in my side for multiple reasons. While it can be helpful, just as often in game discussion can it be a useless fact thrown in for no reason. As someone who plays a fair amount of games, I have my opinions, and bad ones at that. Or so I've been told. I like quite a few games considered to be mediocre, and consider some critical darlings as just kinda okay. I have my personal taste and enjoy discussing it, but every so often in a discussion, I'll get a Metacritic score shoved in my face as if critical reception should be the final deciding factor on a game's standing. Look, if you agree with the critical score of a game, great! You're a conformist! Hey, stupidity's kind of a form of non-conformity. Critical score should be taken into account on if you purchase a game or not. It's not a damning curse or deeming the game permanently as a letter grade. I feel like I have to say this, as typically the kind of freak to force a score down your throat didn't actually play the game. Can critical score be fairly accurate? Yeah, no shit, but it's not the end-all be-all on a game's reputation. You have to remember that games like Wind Waker or No Man's Sky were given horrible critical reviews upon release, but are commonly agreed to be amazing games today. And just because a game has a perfect score, that doesn't mean it's going to resonate with everyone. Hand your average Roblox fan a copy of Metal Gear Solid and you're gonna be met with the fluoride stare of the century. Your own personal taste trumps critical score, and if you liked a game, that's great! You can love Sonic Forces all you want, and I'll only make fun of you a little bit. Hell, that's what the user reviews section of the site is for, giving the critics the finger. This, however, is not without fault. I mean this with love, but gamers are some of the most reactive and moronic people on this planet. I call it tough love, the local court calls it abuse. Sometimes it feels like gamers are just looking for something to be mad at, and the second they have a target, they hit it hard. This is where we get the really cool and totally not embarrassing practice of review bombing. nothing. A mass amount of people reviewing a game poorly because f you, that's why. Slay the Spire 2, Stardew Valley, Sonic Frontiers, and a whole bunch of other games were all hit with excessive amounts of hate for reasons so stupid I don't even care to mention them here, because they don't matter. The website allows bad actors to come in and swamp reviews with no gate to entry, leading to a poor image. Now, it's not like this is a Metacritic exclusive issue, but the fact it happens to be on the biggest game review site currently, and often is kind of clumsy, is a little bit annoying. Imagine if you saw a game with a 90 critic score and a 30 audience score. You would think that all the critics had been bought out, or that there was at least something fishy going on, which sucks for these games that get hit. I just get tired with the way people treat these scores as a gilded crest of absolute authority, but only when it helps push their narrative. These aren't the concrete pieces of evidence you think they are. These scores are extremely easy to portray however you want. Like, what if you like a game with both a good critical and audience score? Yes! Now everybody knows I'm cultured! Now if you like a game with a good critical score but bad audience score. It seems that the normies aren't able to handle such a critical masterpiece. How about the opposite? Like a stuffy critic knows anything about the layman. And what about one with an all-around bad score? Please take me seriously. People are going to see whatever they want, and I can't think of a single time that flashing people with a 63 changed their opinion on a game. What? Sonic Frontiers Definitive Edition got a middling score? What was I thinking liking it? Stupid, 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 stupid. There's some other minor issues I'm not a fan of too. What can I say? Nitpicking's in my blood. Doctors are saying I need to see a phlebotomist. Not that it can be helped that the website was created in 2001, but the vast amount of games before the site's creation are non-existent on the website. But I think there should at least be an effort to get some of the big dogs on the list. Being able to see the gems of an ancient artifacts library without digging through the decade-old Reddit threads calling out the hidden gems would be a huge boon to the site and would have stopped me from buying NES Jeopardy. You could have prevented this and you didn't. Keep that on your conscience. Why the hell does the website have movies and TV and fucking music? Like, if we're having issues keeping up with just the video games on the platform, why would you add a bunch of other mediums that other sites already keep track of better? Sure, I understand having a bunch of mediums all being able to be viewed on the same site, but it just kind of seems like a stupid way to spread yourself too thin. And the award for the nittiest pick goes to, why is the original NES Mario Brothers on the website but only as the Game Boy Advance port? And why is the preview image a still from the Illumination movie? The website has also recently been acquired by Fandom Incorporated, the owners of the website Fandom, a free online fan wiki creator that only makes you pay in your patience. Going on this website is the browser equivalent to a hernia. Fandom is a company with its own string of controversies, such as sharing users' IP addresses without consent, perpetrating misinformation intentionally, and allowing companies to come in and terraform fan wikis whenever they damn well please. We are gathered here today in remembrance of the dearly departed. The McDonald's Fan Wiki. Fandom does not qualify itself as a website or wiki hosting site or any of its other niches that it fills. Instead, it markets itself as an advertising company. Could you tell? Their bread and butter is making it easy to host on their platform so as many people as possible can have a car ad shoved in their face. And you'll never guess, but this has affected Metacritic as well. In their defense, a website does have to pay to keep these pages up and maintain them, but on the other hand, I shouldn't have to change the link to anti-fandom to get a good look at the loathsome character's wiki. He's sometimes a pathetic punching bag when he doesn't deserve it, as he is shown to be either a coward or incompetent. His friends have also shown on countless occasions that they're not above throwing him under the bus if it means getting what they want or getting out of being punished. Do you ever feel like some people have too much time on their hands? However, these are the least of Metacritic's issues, because it even fails to complete the most basic of tasks on its website. Showing you the accurate critic score. See, this website's critic score, or the Metascore as they call it, isn't scraping the entire internet and every physical publication to come to its average. It's a little more complicated than that. Metacritic considers itself prestigious. It has a selection of sources that it believes are up to their standard. This makes sure that outrage reporting and reactionaries don't inflate or destroy a game's reputation due to sloppy writing or inconsideration. The website also aims for the game's contemporary reviews, trying to see what people thought of the game in its time rather than in retrospect. This methodology, I feel, is fair for what the site is trying to do. I would prefer if there was an option to see modern scores, but that would require someone to look at the entire website's contents, and I understand why something like this isn't really feasible. The employee responsible would be in therapy for months.
Dog, I can't read another issue of PlayStation Underground again. I can't do it, Doc! I can't do it! You can't make me! So, same time next week?
However, these specific rules are sometimes outright ignored to push certain narratives for games. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time famously has the highest rating out of any game on the website, but the amount of cherry picking in this specific example is unreal. Random websites or scores from magazines that are otherwise blacklisted are included, and there's even straight up misreported scores of specific magazines. And it's not just Ocarina that's the problem. Titles like Perfect Dark and GoldenEye have similar levels of bias. Now, to be fair, I don't think this is necessarily malicious. Most games with incorrect scoring are games from just before 2001. Games that were scored in the early years of the site when information was a bit more hard to come by online. The sources on these games were pretty much whatever they could find, but the fact that there hasn't even been an attempt to go back and clean up some of the sloppy work is just kind of annoying, especially when the issue is with the largest game on their platform. Game scores have become so overinflated in the modern day too, that some games look weak to comparison just by virtue of being released in the modern day or being released in the past. It leads to the 6th and 7th generation to look like a steaming pile of garbage. You know, steaming, like garbage does. A 7 out of 10 is considered bad nowadays, when it used to be indicative of a good game that's just not perfect. It means that scores are all over the place, and while the Metascore might be good for a quick glance if you know the context of the time, comparing games or being somewhat out of the know might lead to a misrepresentation of the games and their quality. And there's kind of where some of the problem lies. People take these review scores as gospel, as if personal bias can't seep in or as if they really matter in the end. Sure, utilize these scores to come to a conclusion on a purchase. That's what they're here for, but don't treat those scores like a badge of honor. You're not getting the award just because you bonded to the game. You're just one of a million who had the exact same thought. Come to your own conclusions after playing the game, and don't let public opinion color your own thoughts unless you truly agree with it. Personal taste is nothing to be ashamed of, whether it be fully against the grain or in lockstep with gamers at large. Like what you like. Don't let some monolith dictate your love for something. Just utilize these resources for what they're intended for, helping make an educated purchase or use of your time. Because you can have unique taste, and you should. After all, if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to enter Pimp City where bling is king and style is everything!